but I had an eating disorder from the age of about 13. That's because we're both riddled with ADHD. I am not who I was when I drank. I'm not that person. Started with the Coke, and because I didn't want to eat. I'm 3 years sober in 2 weeks. And she said, yeah, you're going to style. I was like, no. I was like, this isn't, I was like, I'm not a lesbian. I took a very large overdose on purpose, and that was the last day I ever had a drink. That was the first time I thought, someone keeps saving me, and there's a reason. I'm here to break the cycle.
Hello and welcome to Becoming Lucy with me, Hannah.
And me, Lucy. So today's episode is a very special one. We have our first ever guest, which is Jess. And our story today is basically you never truly know someone until you've heard their story. And Jess's story is one of those that's going to make you stop in your tracks. So Jess was living with an eating disorder. She's battled addiction. She's ended up being remanded in this whole process, and she has somehow managed to turn that all around. So this story is about redemption. It's about honesty and, of course, becoming who you truly are. So welcome, Jess, to Becoming Lucy. And let's crack on.
Let's crack on. And I think actually before we dig a bit deeper into your life, which I'm personally very excited to hear about, should we sort of figure out how you guys know each other? Because I think you've become friends via Lucy's sort of situation that we heard about in the first episode. So yeah, how do you guys know each other? How are you friends? Take us back.
Do you want me to go?
You go, Jess.
We go to the same gym, and we'd say hello and stuff just because we're polite gym girls. After Lucy's accident, I'd see her in the gym all the time, and I just saw her after she'd got herself back and she was on her crutches, and like being a personal trainer and someone that has sort of gotten through a lot of mental health via fitness, I couldn't believe it. I think it made me like emotional, and I went up to her. I needed to say this. I just said, I think you're incredible for just being here. Like, so many people would feel defeated and that would be the end of their fitness journey, but literally every time I was there, Lucy was there, and I had to say something. I think I actually nearly started crying when I said it to her.
It was a very
I do get a bit emotional, don't I? And now Lucy is one of my clients.
Yes. So, we connected through the gym. She's a very empowering woman, and she was definitely the right person that I needed to look after me, but also be there mentally as well as a coach and not always physically. So, that's how we know. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, that sounds really, really interesting and really kind of on point to what our podcast is about. So that connection that you've grown is just incredible. So yeah, that was just nice to know how you met each other and how you know each other, and how you're here today, Jess. And Lucy gave a really nice roundup before we started this about what you've been through. So can you take us back to before the addiction, before your eating disorder, before you were remanded? Who was Jess back then?
Do you know what? When you said that, I just thought it started so young. Like, really, when I think about it, like when my addictive behavior started, when my eating disorder started, it wasn't diagnosed until I was 24, but I had an eating disorder from the age of about 13. And I was drinking probably from, obviously not, like I was in the end of my addiction. But I started drinking at about 14. And, it was one of those, like, my big brother drank, and then I made friends with all his friends, and we all used to go down to the park and stuff like that, which back then most people did. We didn't really have anything else to do. So yeah, it started quite young, really. I was always very aware of body shape and size. I grew up sort of like, my dad had this thing about fat people. He used to say how awful fat people are. They should all be in prison. He'd always comment on people's looks, on people's shape and size. And as a child, I was a sturdy child. Well, because I am naturally very athletic. I just didn't know that then. I just didn't know that athletic bodies have a lot of muscle. And if you put a little bit of fat on top of muscle, you're going to look chunkier. And I just used to think I was fat. And then sort of around the age of 13, I worked out what a calorie was, and I thought, oh, well, if I eat less of those, And it was an attention thing as well. I loved the attention of it. People were like, "Oh my God, you've lost so much weight. You're so thin." And I thought, "Oh, I've done it. I'm thin. I'm not a fat person anymore." I think it was more of I wanted that acceptance from him to say, "You're not fat. Like you're a beautiful person. You fit what I think is right." Yeah.
That's really interesting when you said about it started when you were sort of 13 and it kind of came from your dad and then you started to lose the weight. And what eating disorder did you develop?
It was anorexia that I was diagnosed with. And I was diagnosed with anorexia and OCD at the time. So they interlinked massively.
Yeah, powerful
And
combination.
Mhm.
and that was only at the age of, what was it, 20?
No, I was
Okay.
diagnosed at 24, but the behavior
But it
started
did, yeah.
when I was about 13. That was the first time I lost an excessive amount of weight. And then sort of spent the next 10 years yo-yoing, sort of like putting it on, losing it, putting it on, losing it. But obviously I didn't know the
Mm,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah,
finally
yeah.
my body type is the desired body type.
Because I think when we're younger, though, as well, like, especially for all of us, we're all around the same age group. Like, it
Mm.
was the whole Victoria Beckham and Kate Moss. You got
Yeah.
to be
Yeah,
skinny. And, like, I mean, I can remember even at me at schools, like, lads commenting on my calves because, I mean, now that's like a massive, like, now you get, oh, I love your calves. Like, it's sexy. Do you know what I mean? It's just how things can
yeah.
develop. But, I mean, what do you think was miss for you, particularly, Jess? 13 to 24, what do you think went not like wrong for you, but maybe in society, like what support either wasn't there for you or what wasn't listening?
Yeah, I think that I've spoken to my mum about this, and she used to say that me and my brother were like horrendous as kids. And I said, "That's because we're both riddled with ADHD." And she said,
Mm,
"Well, no one spoke about that then." She said,
Mm,
"Never once was I told to take you to the doctors." She said, "Never once was I given support or I was informed about this mental health issue that you both so clearly had." She said, "It makes so much sense now. But at the time," she said, "I used to really struggle." I think a lot of the situations I've been in sort of throughout my life, some of them have been like a cry for help. I want someone to look after me sort of thing, because I've always been very, very independent and had to do everything on my own. I think I've had meltdowns because I've just wanted to be cared for.
yeah.
mm.
Has that led you into relationships that probably weren't the best because of that caring element that you were craving?
Well, that's the funny thing, because I haven't really had a relationship where they have really looked after me. I've always taken on the role of the fixer, if you will. Like I've
Mm.
always been the more the
The
more
problem
caring one.
solver and stuff like
Yeah.
that, maybe as
Well, I
well.
wouldn't say in every relationship. I've caused some problems in some relationships.
I
I'm
think
here
we
to
all
be
can put our
completely
hands up.
transparent. I need to. I've a part of the huge part of this journey was taking responsibility for a lot of my behavior, and the relief, like for going years being, "Oh well, it's not my fault. I did that because they did this, da 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 da." And then when you hold your hands up and go, "Actually, I was an absolute mess. And it was my decision. I made that. I might not have been very well, but I still made those
Yeah.
choices." So no, I'm not going to say I've been the perfect person in relationships by any stretch of the imagination.
If you had had that support at the time, you'd be in a completely different position right
Mm.
now. It's almost a bit like frustrating that you're like,
Yeah.
God, if I only got help at that certain time, I wouldn't have gone through all of this. And imagine what my life would have been. But then on the flip side, you're like, I'm sat here right now talking about it and I'm the person I am because of what happens. And do you feel like there's any sort of frustration about that when you think back to your dad, and if your dad wasn't the way he was about your body, that wouldn't have led to your eating disorder and that might not have led, do you know what I mean? Do you ever think back to that, or do you think, do you know what, this is the life I was given and I'm going to make the best of it?
That's a really good question, because I think that didn't help. But like Lucy said, like we grew up like in an era of like heroin chic. It was like the thinner the
Mm.
better. Eat less, eat less. Like size zero was the
Yeah,
thing. So would I have developed an eating disorder? Probably. I probably would have done. I just would have had a different reason for it. There would have been another trigger,
Yeah.
because it is a control thing. And because for a lot of my life, my younger life, I didn't have any control or consistency over any situations. So, and that's where the OCD comes from. I have to have control over certain things because I never had that before. So the unexpected scares me, if you know what I mean, like petrifies me.
Those sort of teenage years then, how did that lead into an addiction in terms of, was there an alcohol addiction that came off the back of that? And was that the control element again?
I always knew I had a drinking problem. Always. I knew from a really young age I did not drink like normal people. And because I just wanted more, never wanted the night to end, just wanted to. I couldn't enjoy a drink because I was always thinking about the next one. I didn't even enjoy the taste of alcohol, never, apart from if it was like a Blue Wicked or Bailey's, something that
Yeah.
tasted not like alcohol.
Yeah.
And yeah, so alcoholism runs in my family. So I do believe there is a genetic link. Some people have the chemical in their brain where they can stop themselves drinking. They go, that was nice, I've had enough. And then others, when you have problems with your dopamine, when you want that hit, you think, oh, that was nice, I'll have another one. Oh, that was nice, I'll have another one.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're blackout drunk because you haven't got that stopping point.
Do you ever think, like, I think about this because I can relate to certain parts of your story, but obviously in the minimal like effect with like the control with the eating, and obviously even my mum said many years ago she thought I'd like go to drink. Like, do you
Yeah.
ever think sometimes it's a way of having that release away from that control as well? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because you
Yeah.
forget, you can blow out, you can do it. Like, it's weird, but you kind of get that fun side from it, but it's that way of going, oh, well, I don't have to care now. Do you know what I
I
mean?
totally
Like,
agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's a form of escapism, whatever reason you're drinking for. If you pick up a drink, it's because you want to relax a bit or you want to like, and that's with anyone, not just alcoholics. It's anyone that it's a form of escapism. And what I used to do, because I was so addicted to exercise, and even when I was in my I say recovered in inverted commas because I wasn't recovered. I went from one addiction to another, which was being super skinny to then being super lean. And I would exercise so much and have such a strict, structured life that the only thing that could make me sit down and do nothing for a day was when I was hungover. So I would drink on Saturday nights because that's the only way I would rest is if I felt crap. So yeah,
And that's mad, isn't it? Because
yeah.
even the drinking side of it had that control element to it, even though Lucy was saying you get that escapism and you can release from it. But right up into the minute you picked up a drink, you were controlling when you were going to drink, how you were going to feel the next day. You said it was only going to be a Saturday night. So that, for me, when you think of alcoholism and someone that's an alcoholic, they lose that control because they can't help but pick up a drink sort of every minute of every day. So it's almost like you had that battle, but you were still able to control it, which it feels like very like contradictive, doesn't it? And that must be really strange for your brain to be able to handle that and work out how you were going to get through that.
So it was a strange one because I always knew I was an alcoholic. I actually used to say it to people when I was drunk. I'd be like, I am an alcoholic. But because I was so young, it was like people couldn't fathom it. They were like, well, you can't be an alcoholic. And there was a time where I actually abstained from alcohol it was when I was 23, I think. And because I knew I had a drinking problem, but I also had a raging eating disorder. So I was saying to people I was stopping drinking because I had a drinking problem, but actually what I was doing was cutting out drinking because I didn't want the calories from drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So to everyone else, it looked like I was drinking. Everything was calculated to do with my addictions and to make sure everything was like had a point to it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. And how much were you drinking, if you don't mind me asking? Like,
So
to
in the
say,
begin, I'd always binge drink. So I was never an everyday drinker. And it was always like the end of a week or a random Wednesday night whenever I had like the morning off work or something like that. But I can drink a lot, like excessively. I remember once when I was working at the Masquerie, when I first moved to Congleton, I worked at the Masquerie in Congleton, and we'd stay after work and I drank 12 pints of cider and blackcurrant. There was no drugs involved. So it wasn't like it was like cancelling it out. And someone said, where do you put that? I was like a size 8 to 10 young woman. They were like, what? But it was I just didn't know when to stop ever.
Yeah. And I think that's when we were saying about resonating. I can definitely resonate with the don't know when to stop. And I think that when I was younger, it's easier to do it because one, you've got less responsibility, and it's almost like oh, if you drink more, you're more fun, or if you're the one that can do all these shots or go out and party till 5, 6 in the morning, then you're going to be the fun one. And I think that's
Yeah.
got to do with like the confidence side of things. And you can have this extroverted personality. And like you said, you know, they were looking at you at this size 8 to 10. Where are you putting it? And it's sort of that. And yeah, absolutely. You can resonate with that about
But it was
wanting that
promoted,
boost.
wasn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, me and Hannah can talk with the bloody holiday reps, but it was promoted to spin around and drink and do as many shots as you wanted when, like, when we were younger. Where now you never see. Like, I know I've got people like friends with teenagers. They want to be pilots and stuff. Like, they'll go out and, like, do you know what I mean?
What
Take a
happened to
pic.
us?
It was like, yeah, go on your girls and lads holiday, like go down the park, go and get drunk. It was so like highly promoted.
But in the same breath, I'm so glad that was my teenage years, and that sounds so strange, but I think back and I think that it's quite fun. I'm quite fond of those memories. But yeah, like being there with your friends, you know what it's like. No phones, no social media, just literally meeting up at like 6 o'clock. You've just left your friends at school, like see you in 3 hours, or meet at the school park or whatever. And you go in there with your like bottle of cider, your 10 Richmond Super Kings, and you would literally just have the best time for like 5, 6 hours. And there was not a care in the world. I think personally for my teenage years, I needed that. I had a lot of stuff going on. And obviously same for you, Jess. You needed that escapism as well. But like you said, Liz, it was pushed upon us. Like that's what it was all about. And I think the social media era in terms of what people do now, one, I think there's a lot of situations that people get themselves into because of what they see on social media, which isn't good. The positives of it is that they're knocked down the park downing cider and they haven't got, you know, these stories to tell, but all they want to do is obviously be an Instagram star. And I think that takes away the fun of what our childhood and our teenage years brought for us. Although it's one of those things where you're like, oh, it wasn't actually that great, was it? Sitting in a park and obviously parents not knowing where we were. But then I think, well, actually, I'm glad I did it. I'm really glad that was my teenage years. And I'm really glad I ended up being a holiday rep and being out and doing all that, because I think it really, really helped me in my life experiences. So again, it's that contradictive element of like, probably good that people aren't doing that now, but actually it really helped us develop into the people that we are.
Yeah, I think you're an alcoholic from when you're born. I think you either, like I go back to talking about the chemical, like in your brain, you can either drink or you can't. And like some people, you can be the nicest person in the world and put a drink in someone and it's like a different person. We call it Jekyll and Hyde. I am not who I was when I drank. I'm not that person. I don't like that person, and not many other people did. I'd had too much trauma to be a drinker. I couldn't do it because even as a very young person, as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, I was very emotional. I was holding on to a lot. And because I never healed from that, I carried that trauma into adult life whilst creating more trauma for myself because I hadn't healed. So I'd had like situations when I was younger, and I sort of put that into new relationships, new friendships, because I never really trusted anyone. Sort of, for example, if I get into a relationship, I'd end up sabotaging it because I think, oh, you're going to leave me anyway. So it's like I'd become the worst version of myself. And the worst version of myself is the person who picks up a drink.
Yeah. And when did like the drugs come into it? Like when was like the drink not enough? And then
So, right. Again, that leads into my eating disorder. So I tried drugs when I was about 20, and then didn't bother with it really after that. And then I got to about 26 and again, linked into my eating disorder. I didn't want the calories from alcohol. I realized you've got a higher heart rate. You don't eat anything. You don't eat anything when you're on coke. So I thought, oh, I've cracked the system. I can drink what I want. I'll just sniff coke. And in the beginning, I could have like a half of a half and go to bed. But that's how it started. And then after like a few months, it was because I've got a high tolerance to everything. Everything is in excess with me.
Intense.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And then started with the Coke, and because I didn't want to eat. I mean, to be honest, Coke's awful. It makes you paranoid. You're only tasting the first line that you have. After that, it's horrible. But it's an addiction. It's that feeling. It's the dopamine that it was like, oh wow, that was good. But actually it isn't. And it was gross. I think about it now, it knocks me sick, honestly.
Do you feel like you've got an addictive personality?
Just a little.
I think that comes across. Yeah.
But sometimes that's
Look at the cat situation. I started off with 1, I've got 4. I was like, I just love them.
like, I think some people don't like to be labelled. And then obviously when you were talking about taking accountability for your actions and things like that, like that's kind of probably the linchpin. If you could admit to yourself that I have got an addictive personality,
God, yeah.
and this is the reason why everything I put my, so to speak, turns into something that it should never get to.
Yeah.
But if that's your personality, does it ever scare you what could come in your future, or have you nailed your recovery that you don't have to worry about that so much?
So when I got sober, I am 3 years sober in 2 weeks, and
Congratulations.
thank you. And that made me a little bit emotional when I said that. I was like, oh no, I can't cry yet. And because when you stop drinking, and in the end I was drinking loads, and I mean, my intention was to kill myself with drinking. I didn't want to be here anymore. I wanted to drink myself to death, and I was too much of a wuss to do it in any other way. I thought, if I drink enough, eventually I'll die. And that was what I intended to do. But when I got into recovery, I knew I was going to put weight on. I knew I was, and I knew I had to, because I needed, the sugar cravings are intense. Because your body has been so used to so much sugar for so many years. Even if you only drink 3 nights a week, and you have a bottle and a half of wine 3 nights a week, the sugar you take in is massive. And I said to myself, right, one thing at a time. If you put weight on, you put weight on. But if that's what it takes to stop drinking, that's it. And I did. I put 2 stone on, but I was dead happy. I loved it. I was just, for the first time in my life, I was allowed to eat cake, because those were the rules I'd set myself. I knew I had to put weight on. I didn't want to, because obviously I didn't want to be big, but it was a goal. So the goal was to be sober. And because putting weight on supported my goal, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. And truthfully, when it comes to having an eating disorder, and I can't speak for everyone who has an eating disorder, I will always battle with having an eating disorder. I will always have body dysmorphia. I don't see myself the way other people necessarily see me. And that's something that I have to be very mindful of. And I have to be very aware of my behaviors, which I am. If I ever start to feel that I am getting back into a cycle of dangerous behaviors in terms of like restricting food too much or anything like that, like I have to snap myself out of it, because ultimately that will lead me back to drinking. That's how it works, because it's all a knock-on effect. And as soon as I start with one addiction, it will lead me back there. And I promise myself that I will never, ever go back there again.
Because obviously, going back to you were a personal trainer when you had anorexia. You were a personal trainer when you were battling drinks and drugs. Like, what you looked like, I mean, I didn't know you then. How you looked on the outside, did that reflect of what was going on the inside? Did you still look athletic? Did you still, like, obviously you got clients, so how was that work?
Do you know what? I think how I looked actually was detrimental to me getting the help that I needed, because in terms of when you have ADHD, you learn to mask from a very, very young age. You learn to, like, you can be going through so much internally or when you're at home, and as soon as you step out the door, you put your mask on and you perform. And that is what we have learned to do, especially I'm talking about women here mostly, because from children, we're told we have to sit still and act nice and girly and this, that, and the other. So our noise internalizes. So once, wait, I've gone off on a thing there. So wait, hold on. So this is my ADHD.
No, carry on. Carry on, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Yeah.
So when I have been suffering, all it takes for me is to put a bit of makeup on, put a smile on my face, and everyone thought I was okay. And yes, I was still athletic. My body holds muscle like crazy. I mean, it's taken me a year to lose the muscle that I wanted to lose. It's one of those. I am naturally blessed in terms of that. However, even when I was in such a bad way, I went to CGL in Macclesfield, and I sat there and I told this support worker, I told him how much I was drinking and what I was up to. And he was like, "Oh, you don't look like you drink that much. You look really well. Why are you doing this?" And I thought, "Oh, well, I am drinking that much. Like, that is my life." And it blew my mind because I was suffering, but in a way it was my fault that I wasn't getting the help because I was acting like I was okay. But
Yeah.
even when I openly said I want the help, it wasn't good. And even when it came to getting help at the doctors with my eating disorder, because I've always been so muscular, it got flagged that had eating disorder behaviors. My weight was too much to be classed as anorexic to begin with. I went in saying I need some help. I think my BMI might have been about 18.5 at that point, and they sent me away to get sicker so I could then be diagnosed with an eating disorder.
Wow.
So
That's
because of
just
the BMI scale, I was I looked like I weighed about 6 stone. My hair was falling out. I was going yellow. I was really poorly, but I was about 9.5 stone.
Do
And
they still
wi-
go off the BMI now? Because I
yeah,
know there's been
yeah,
loads of stuff in the press, isn't there? And it's just ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
I think I'm obese on a BMI.
And I
But
think
it
like
just,
you with muscle as well, muscle weighs more than fat and you were
Yeah.
obviously still well into your fitness. So it wasn't a true representation of what you were going through mentally as well as physically. And to be turned away and said that you need to go and essentially lose more weight before we can diagnose you as
yeah.
anorexic. Like that is just crazy.
That's the rules. Like, literally, I mean, I did a cut last year and I've got down to a really low body fat. And that was always my issue. My weight wasn't my issue. It was because I wasn't underweight. I was under fat. And
Mm.
that's so much more dangerous. And
Yeah.
it's like, I got to a point and I thought they wouldn't flag me as being unhealthy now. And I was about 8% body fat. And I thought they wouldn't flag that as unhealthy, which is crazy, which is why there's so many um, I think a lot of bodybuilding competitions and things like that is glorified anorexia, and
Wow.
Yeah.
they won't get help because they weigh too much. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
crazy, honestly.
If like any mother listening to this with a teenage
Mhm.
daughter, and if they were struggling and the doctors weren't listening, what would be your advice that they could do to help?
I really feel for mothers or fathers or caregivers who are caring for someone with an eating disorder because it's very, very difficult because someone with an eating disorder is so in their own head that they really have to want to be better. They have to want to live because the ultimate thing at the end of with an eating disorder is you put weight on or you die. Like that's what happens. Like your organs will fail and you will die. And I mean, I don't like being told what to do. Everyone was telling me that I was unwell, I knew I was unwell, but I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't
Yeah.
ready to get better. And I remember waking up one morning and sitting on the side of my bed. And I thought, this is when I think I was 22. I sat on the side of my bed and I thought I was dying. Like, not like I'm going to die right now. Like I'm dying like this. I'm going to die. And then I thought, well, there's no point in being skinny when you're dead. And I thought, I've got to get better. Like, I've got to get better or I'm going to die.
That was the
And
turning point.
yeah, so then I was an outpatient at Jocelyn Solly in Macclesfield. And then I do, as I do, like to go off and do things on my own. So I discharged myself. And that's when I got into fitness. And I thought, truthfully, how can I trick the system and put weight on without getting fat? And I was like, muscle. And again, this is why I was never recovered because I went from one to another. But because people didn't, back then, it was like 12 years ago, people thought, God, she looks so healthy. And initially I did
Yeah.
until I got obsessed with being lean. It's
Yeah.
all just linked in.
Can you now talk to us about the time that everything changed and you ended up being remanded?
Okay, so it's started, and stay with me.
Mm,
The beginning of the end was lockdown because I'd met a group of people that I wouldn't necessarily, well, absolutely wouldn't be friends with in a sober mind. But I changed my friendship group to accommodate my addiction, as people do. That's what you do. And my drinking and drug use got progressively worse as lockdown went on, and then it continued. I moved from the house that I was in during lockdown and I moved to it. Well, I had a boyfriend at the time who was also in that life. And together we just absolutely spiraled. And it was very chaotic. It was lots of arguing, lots of fighting, lots of police involvement, neighbors making complaints. It was absolute chaos. During which time I pretty much lost all my clients because I wasn't well enough to work. I couldn't function in any way. And yeah, so I ended up getting into an altercation, which I was arrested on the Friday afternoon. And if you get arrested on a Friday afternoon, apparently they keep you in all weekend. So I was in till Sunday, and then the officers just said, you'll go to court in the morning, then you'll go home. Because obviously I hadn't done anything like that before. I was just I didn't know what was going on. I had no previous convictions. There was nothing on my record. Anyway, I say we because there was another 6 people in court that Monday.
Right.
And everyone went to court. And I, at this point, was dissociating a little bit and thinking, oh, I'm going home now. And I felt really rough from the day of the incident, because I had my hair ripped out and all sorts. I had bald patches all over my head. I just wanted to go home. I didn't hear what the judge said. And I looked at one of the female officers who had been being really nice to me, and she also said, you'll be going home. Don't worry. She said, you've been remanded. And I said, what? And she said, yeah, you're going to style. And I went, me? And she was like, yeah. And she was gobsmacked. And all the people who were around were gobsmacked because, again, no previous convictions. It was bizarre. So yeah, the weird thing was that my head was so all over the place and so not with it. It was like I was in a dreamlike state all the time. At that point, I think it was disassociating, depression, anxiety. It was all of it. Anyway, so yeah, I was sent to Style jail, but I was due to have a detox. And the funny thing is that I went to CGL that day, told them how much I was drinking, and they said, and because I hadn't drank for 3 days, and it got to the Friday, and they said, because you drink so much, you need to keep drinking. And I thought, great. I thought, oh, it's all right then. And
Who are these people in Congleton? I'm not going home. I've got an addiction.
she said you need to wean off, which, because of the amount that I drank, I did, but I was a binge drinker. So I didn't drink every day. I just drank an excessive amount in one sitting that could go over 2 days, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she said, you need to keep drinking. And I was like, this is brilliant. So I went, I said to my friend who would take me to CJ, I said, we need to go to Tesco, we need to go to Sainsbury's because I need to get 2 bottles of wine. And he was like, are you sure? And I said, yeah. And because I wasn't lying. And I went home that night, ended up going to someone else's house, which is where the altercation happened. And that ultimately led me to being remanded.
Just on that then, when you got to court, obviously, even the 2 days before that, you were sort of in jail, I take it, in a prison cell.
Like in the cell?
Yeah. How was that when you sort of got taken there and just put in the cell? And what was going through your mind at that point?
Well, it was I was really bored. I was really, really bored. I struggled to sit still. Like you'll notice. Yeah, I'm all over the place. So I asked them for some chalk, and they let me draw let me draw all over the walls, because they have a special cell for people with ADHD and autism. So they let me go in there and decorate it, and I drew pictures of my cats. They must have thought I was an
I knew it was
absolute
going to be
mentalist.
cats.
Honestly, I drew so much, I ran out of space. And I think I read a
Wow.
book, but I'm not a reader. I didn't read a whole book. That's not true. I attempted to read a book. But yeah, it was
Were
it
you
was a long 2 days.
were you reflecting? Were you sort of thinking, it's, I would catastrophize. And I think that's probably, quite valid if you were sat in a cell. My brain would be going wild about, I'm going to be remanded for 10 years or whatever. Or were you just sort of thinking, it's a bit of a strange situation, but I'm sure I'll be out in a couple of days and that'll be it. What were you thinking?
No, it's because of the chaos that was my relationship. Me and him both had been arrested prior to that. So I had an experience of being arrested before.
Right.
I thought I'll just be going home.
Yeah.
That's what literally just what I thought. And I was just thinking, I just want to go and get into bed. I worry about my pet. And I was just thinking, and probably at the time, because I wouldn't take responsibility for my actions, I was probably thinking that I'd done nothing wrong and it shouldn't be me that was in there and da-da-da-da-da. That's probably what I was thinking, because that's the mindset that I was in at the time, victim mentality.
Yeah. So you were just riding through it. You got to court. They then said you were going to be taken to Style. And then what happened after that then? Did you get bundled in a van? Is that what is it like in the movies? That's why I'm interested. I'm so interested.
No, so I got in this, it was like a square thing. They were really nice. I think, again, everyone was just a bit shocked that it was happening, to be honest, because I don't think I was. Wasn't the sort. It's hard to say customer. I wasn't the sort of a prisoner that you get every day, because I am a bit airy fairy, and because I disassociate, I think I was a bit. I don't know how to word it. It's like I was pretending it wasn't real, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Just zone out.
Yeah, I sat in this little box and I was just looking out the window. And truthfully, obviously, it was the first time I'd been like sober, no, well, or level headed for a few days. I felt it was weird. It was like, right, this sounds strange, but I felt in a way safer because someone had control over me. Someone was telling me what to do. I didn't have
Yeah.
to do it on my own. Someone was saying, right, this is where you come in and this is where you're staying. And it kind of felt like a relief. If that might sound really strange, but
But
No, I
you were
get
saying
that.
earlier, weren't you, though, when you were younger, you were taking the control over everything, even in relationships where you kind of wanted that care, but you still took that control.
yeah,
It was probably almost like a childlike state where you were just like, I'm finally getting looked after in the
yeah.
weirdest situation. And that must have been a real, I don't know, do we swear on this podcast? I think we do.
Yeah, we
Head
do.
I know I
fuck.
was thinking that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah,
I'm
no, you
bloody on
can.
it and I can't remember. But yeah, like a head fuck, a real head fuck, to be like, I'm actually enjoying, like you said, this caring element. And if they were really nice to you because you weren't the typical prisoner, they were obviously wanting to be a bit kinder and you weren't giving them any lip or whatnot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can understand why you might have thought of that because of what you told us so far.
I know when we spoke as well, you said it, and this is what always resonated with me when we spoke about it. It's like the universe kind of put you there. Do you
Oh,
know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like, you,
So,
like,
mm, I 100% believe, because it was mind blowing. I had no previous convictions. I wasn't a threat to the public. No one could understand why I'd been remanded. It didn't make sense. But everyone who was in court that day, all 7 people, all got remanded. So I think it was the judge that day that was just
Yeah.
pissed off. And he's just like, right, send them all.
mm,
However, that to me, this was when I really opened my mind to the power of the universe. So in early recovery in AA, they talk about a higher power. And that is something I really struggled with because it is a lot to do with God. It's quite pushy. And again, I don't like being told what to do. And they say you have to do these 12 steps or you're going to relapse. And it's very much like, right, I'll do this my way. I really struggled with the higher power part of it, but it was something that stayed with me because I couldn't quite understand it. I thought, I don't understand that. And when I was there for the 20 days, I had a lot of time to reflect. I felt incredibly safe, which might sound crazy, but my life was so chaotic and unpredictable outside of that. And Style is a remand prison so that people are waiting to be sentenced. So because of that, I realized no one's going to hurt me because they're not going to risk getting in more trouble for me, but they didn't like me. Let me
Oh,
tell you.
I was going
Yeah.
to say, actually, like, because that is the thing I think about when I think about being remanded or prisons. And, you know, you do watch all these programs. I mean, I don't watch them anymore since becoming a mum. God, you will not get me watching any type of prison program. But I used to watch them. And you do have that sort of like gang culture. And you do, for me, if I was inserted in that situation, I would be absolutely terrified, like you just said, Jess, that you're going to get hurt. And the fact that you felt the complete opposite because of the type of prison that you were in, again, that it blows my mind. I mean, did you make friends with these other
No,
cellmates? No,
no.
tell us
They
what
all,
happened then.
they all thought they all thought I was an undercover police
I
officer
can't believe it.
because because obviously so the way it's set up is you're in secure houses, you're not in cells. So
Right.
you're put with the people that are most like you, if you know what I mean. So for example, like all the heroin addicts will go with the heroin addicts and all the all the loud people will go with the loud people. Out the one that I was in was actually the best one of them all.
You're selling this, to be
But
fair, Jess.
I do. Just go 3 meals a day. No, I'm joking. Um,
We'll
and
put a
yeah,
disclaimer, don't worry.
yeah. So, and because I went in and I can't sit still. There's only so much. I mean, so you can't go out of the house. You're only allowed like a bit of exercise a day. However, you could go to the gym. God, right? They joined the gym. And to me, I was horribly out of shape. My body was inflamed. My face was fat. I wasn't fat. I was just bloated.
Bloated, yeah.
Anyway, everyone started asking me for plans. And then because I was giving people plans, people thought I was flirting with their girlfriends. And I was like, no,
Oh
no. I was like, no, no. I
gosh.
was like, this isn't, I was like, I'm not a lesbian. And I thought, if I was, I wouldn't go out with anyone in here. And
Not
so
that you
yeah,
tell that to the face.
Yeah.
they
If you're
definitely,
watching.
yeah, they definitely saw me as a threat because of my confidence. But what I actually think happened was, it was like me overcompensating because actually I was petrified. But I went into acting mode and went like, I'm all right. And I was chatty with everyone. And I went in, and someone said to me, they were like, most people come in here absolutely petrified
Yeah.
and they go in their rooms and they keep themselves to themselves. You've come in and you've just been speaking to everyone like you've known them for years. And that's what they didn't trust about me because I was too confident.
Mhm.
Yeah, they said I walked like a copper.
I
But
mean,
I was doing hit training every day because I can't really struggle to sit still. Like I had to have a routine. So I thought, right. And so I did. I had my routine. I got up, I did hit training in the morning and hit training in the afternoon. And they thought I was training to maintain my police fitness.
and maintain your copper walk.
Yeah, I just got good posture.
I'm just thinking about now this when you're explaining the house and everything. So were there moments though that you did become vulnerable and that confidence mask came off and you were just like, what the hell is going on? Am I getting out of this situation? You were obviously sober because obviously you couldn't drink. You said that you felt safe. Was it like, I want to get out and rebuild my life? Or was it like, I could carry on like this because I actually feel protected?
No. So I remember overhearing some of the women in there and they were talking about how they can't wait to get out and like get back on it, basically. And I was gobsmacked. I thought, because I'd done a full alcohol detox in there and I felt great. So I had a Librium detox, which is where like it just really sorts you out, basically. And I thought, this is it. This is my chance to get sober. If anything's going to get me sober, it's going to be this.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to get out. And when I did get out, one of my friends picked me up and my ex-boyfriend was there. They were like, you look really well. They were like, you look like the color had come back in my skin. And I was like, yeah, because I haven't drank or taken drugs for 21 days. And after that, I was like, right, this is it. I'm being sober. Like I had to. It was obviously very embarrassing going from Little Miss Fitness to the local villain or criminal, but I just had to get on with it because that's what I've always had to do. And I just had to own it. But like I said to him, I was like, let's get sober. Let's show him sort of thing.
And
Yeah.
was it when you were remanded and you were reflecting, was it then when you became accountable for your actions? Is that when it clicked and you were like,
No.
okay, interesting?
So I've wanted to be sober for a very long time. I'd been done with alcohol for a long time. I didn't know how to stop. I wanted to stop, but the people that I was around and like there was lots to do with, well, do you know what? No, I didn't want to stop. That's why I didn't stop. I'm talking myself out of it. That's why
Yeah.
I didn't stop.
No.
The idea was there and it was probably because I wanted to prove to everyone else that I could, but actually I didn't want to.
Mm.
So I did 4 months sober and I said to someone, I said, I want to go to Manchester. I want to go to Manchester and I want to drink. And in my head at the time, I thought, well, that's all right because no one will know.
Mm.
But I knew. So that was a relapse. And so when did that happen? May, June, July, August. Relapsed in August. And then I drank solidly for pretty much until the 11th of November, which was when I took a very large overdose
Wow.
on purpose. And that was the last day I ever had a drink because I woke up in hospital the next day, like ashamed, like emotionally exhausted. And I thought to myself, why can't I die? Like, why? I should be dead 15 times over. Like, I don't understand it. For those that know about how paracetamol is the worst way you can die, like it's the most painful way to die, because you wake up, think, oh God, I didn't die. And then 3 days later, you die in excruciating pain. And I
Mm.
had my liver tested, and this was after 6 weeks solid of drinking a liter of vodka every day and probably some
Wow.
other stuff. Yeah, every single day. It was fully my intention. I'm done. I can't do this life anymore. And my liver was zero point 0.1 over what it should be. It was pretty much bang on healthy. And I thought, because I had to stay in hospital for 4 days with that, because I had to be like on drips and have it all flushed out of me and stuff. So I had a lot of time to sit and reflect. And I thought, I'm meant to be here. I
Mm.
thought, I am here for a reason. Like that has to be it. And just going back to what Lucy mentioned before about the universe, this was
Mm.
when like my mind had been opening to the universe. And that was the first time I thought, someone keeps saving me and there's a reason. And I thought, right, if I'm going to do this life, I am not doing it how I've been living. I'm not living like that. And my guardian angel, and this is where I probably will get a bit emotional. So I was in the hospital bed and my phone was behind me and I was ignoring it. I could hear it buzzing and I was ignoring it because I thought, I can't face anyone. I'm so embarrassed. I'm a mess. I'm an absolute mess. And then anyway, I picked my phone up and it was a girl that I'd met in town one day. I overheard her asking for a mocktail menu. And I said, I hope you don't mind me asking, but what are mocktails? And her and her friend said, oh, we're in alcohol recovery. By which point I'd already been to AA and like dipped my toe in and what we call sober curious, know that you've got a problem but not ready to stop. And she'd messaged me out of the blue. I'd only met her once. And she said, I've just felt like I've needed to message you. I haven't seen anything of you or heard anything of you, and I needed to check you were okay. And I told her what had happened. And she said, she was 2 years sober. And she said, excuse me.
It's fine.
And she said, she said, I've just spoken to my husband. She said, I want you to come and stay with me for a week. She said, if you go back to that house, you will drink. And she came and got me from the hospital. And bear in mind, I'd only met this woman once. She was a couple of years younger than me, just beautiful person. And she's got a son who'd seen her go through it all, and they were just incredible. And I stayed there for a week. It was a very emotional week. I had no clothes because my house had basically just gone rotten because I hadn't been able to afford gas and electric. The damp had got into everything. An absolute wreck my house was. I even took Lily, the OG, my first cat, the night that I planned to take the overdose, I took her across the road to a little old lady that lives across the road. Because she didn't deserve this. She didn't deserve this life.
I've got goosebumps when you were talking about the girl messaging you and picking you up and bringing you to her house, because you could feel it, that absolutely was the moment that you were never going to go back. And I was like, wow, this really is the best part of this whole journey, that week. So tell us how that happened then. You were at your now probably best friend's house who saved your life. What were the next steps then to rebuild your life into what you're doing right now?
She was so sweet. She messaged, I don't know whether it was a group chat of her friends or like the girls from AA, and she did like a bit of a collection. Basically, she just said, if anyone's got any like bedding, curtains, ever, and towels, because everything was rotten, everything. And they did like a collection for me, and I got new bed, like I got gifted like bedding, and everyone showed me so much kindness. And I hadn't been around kindness or kind people for a very, very long time. Drugs and alcohol turn people into not nice people, selfish people, people who steal, people who take from you what they can. They will come to your house and leave it in absolute turmoil. They don't care if you spend your rent money on a few drug deals. They don't care. And the kindness I was shown gave me so much hope. Excuse me. That there was kind people in the world. I hadn't been around them for so long, and I'm talking years. I hadn't been around a kind person for that long. And me and my friend whose house I stayed at, we spent 10 solid hours cleaning my house. We went and put some like gas and electric on. We gutted it. We cleaned it like to the point where our backs were killing, our feet were killing. And then I remember going to bed that night actually, and it was just, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I was alive. I couldn't believe, and I had Lily with me, and it was
I was
just,
going to ask about Lily. I was going to say, did you
yeah.
get Lily back?
I got like, yeah, she's there. She's
Oh.
literally right there. That the next day I woke up and I thought, right, I've got to put the work in. I've got to do this now. And I did as I was told. And I went to AA and I did everything that the people that were sober were doing. And I stuck with AA for 6 months and it was great for when I needed it. I had no desire to drink whatsoever. I was done with it. It made me feel sick, knew I had to learn that I had to sit through my emotions. I had to sit through my trauma. I had to sit through everything I'd done, my awful behavior that had happened over the previous 10 years or my whole life. And I had to sit through it and take responsibility for it. And when it went back to the night of me getting arrested and me saying that I was probably in the cell saying this shouldn't have happened and why me and I know bad people, and the reason I was there was because I put myself in a dangerous situation and I got myself into an altercation, and if I wasn't drunk I would never have done that. And just like everything that has gone wrong in my life, it stems from alcohol, because my life now, nothing happens, like nothing, like nothing. It's incredible. I don't lose things since I've been sober. Honestly, it's incredible. And I feel so alive now, which sounds weird, but like colors are brighter and like everything's better. I wouldn't swap this for the world, even a day where I feel horrendous, because I do still suffer with my mental health. I'm on medication to stabilize because I get sort of like manic depressive episodes and then I get extreme highs where I'm so in love with everything and everything's wonderful. It's very up and um but what was I saying? Wait,
About
what did I
feeling
just say?
alive, feeling alive, and you don't
Just
regret.
love being
Yeah.
alive. I just love being alive. And which is why when I decided to get sober, because there was a lot of people I pissed off, I remember specifically going on Facebook. I haven't had Facebook since this occasion. Was feeling obviously bitter and angry. And I decided, this was in the middle of an afternoon, I decided to go on Facebook and out every single person that had ever wronged me, ever. Ever. I was status. And people were messaging me going, Jess, stop. And I was like, I knew, going. And I
Were
just,
you sober doing this then?
no, God, no,
Right, I was
no.
about to say. I got along.
No, I was writing all sorts on Facebook, and I remember waking up the next day and I saw how many inboxes I had, and I thought, "Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to delete that app," and I have never been back on it since. Never.
Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it was. So I'd pissed a lot of people off, and I had to make amends with a lot of people. Like even there was a lady who, bless her, she works in one of the bars in town. Really nice woman. And she told me that I'd been put on pub watch. I think me and my ex had an argument and the landlady put me on pub watch for swearing or something. Anyway, I went to try and get a drink. She said, Jess, said it dead nice. You were on pub watch. And I was so rude to her. I wasn't like mean to her or anything, but I was like rude to her and like it was her fault.
Mm.
And I remember in early recovery seeing her, and you do carry the guilt. You carry guilt. I carry a lot of guilt, or I used to.
I'm a client of yours now. You're PTing me. You've literally rebuilt your business and you're inspiring women, to be the best version of themselves. And I know we spoke about this personally, but your version of being Jess now, what is that to you? What do you want to do?
So I aim to be as transparent as possible. As you know, I didn't know whether to do to tell all today. I've sort of been toing and throwing and wondering whether I should really tell my story. But it is my story and it's a success story. And it's important for me to share it because no one ever would have thought that I'd have gone to prison. Ever. No one ever would have thought that I'd have experienced that. Well, I mean, maybe a couple of teachers at school, but it was it was not something that people would have thought that was on the cards for me. And addiction leads people, the nicest people. I've met some of the nicest people in recovery, and I've spoken to a lot of people who I never would have expected to message me and ask me for advice. And by talking about it, it's encouraged other people to recognize behaviors in themselves, because I would not want what happened to me to happen to anyone ever. And I think people think that it would never happen, but it can. It can happen, and it can happen to anyone. Life can take you down unexpected roads. And you might think, oh, I'll be all right. Or like, oh, I just like doing it on Fridays. And then it becomes a Saturday, and then it becomes a Wednesday. And drugs and alcohol, they are powerful, powerful substances. And if you don't have the right brain chemistry to just have a dabble, it can absolutely destroy your life. And I wouldn't want that for anyone. Yeah, I just thought, right, I'm going to tell everyone. I'm going to tell everyone I'm an addict. And it's the best thing I could have done, to be honest. It's kept me accountable. It is the support I have had. Because it could have gone either way, because all those people that I went off at on Facebook really could have gone at me. But I've been shown so much support, and I think it's been quite widely appreciated, and it's resonated with a lot of people.
One thing I want to highlight, Jess, is what I think is going to be big for you, and hopefully something which I know that you're trying to get into right now is, well, you tell me, I think you know where I'm going to go, is helping break that cycle and hopefully go
Yes.
into women, prisons,
So
isn't it?
Oh, wow.
yeah, I want to. What I realized when I was in there, like I said, I was disassociating. It felt like work experience, which it sounded real. That sounds really weird, but I was absorbing information and knowledge when I was in there. And 85%, I'm sure I've got that number right. 85% of women in female prisons are in there due to reactive abuse or drug and alcohol use. And yes, there are some people that don't want to get out of that lifestyle. They want to sit there and carry on. And if that's what they want to do, that's fine. But there are women in there that want to get out of the circles that they're in. And I mean, especially people that come from maybe a poorer background, like some from rougher areas or whatever. They're in these circles and they don't have people to go to. They don't have people that want to level up. They want to have a better life. I want to work in female prisons to explain how I got myself out of that rut, because there is a way out. I mean, I cry all the time because I'm overwhelmed that my life is the way it is now. I look around, and to some people, I might not have a lot. I might not have a lot at all, but it's overwhelming, the peace that comes with sobriety. That there's no drama, there's nothing. And people want that. They just don't know how to get it. They don't know the avenues to go down. And I want to tell my story to them, and hopefully create groups where women in recovery can go. They can make friends. They can create new circles, people that are on the same path, safe spaces for them to go, people who aren't going to drag them back down. Because a lot of the time in circles of friends, of addicts, they just want someone to prop the bar up with. They don't care if you spend your last penny, as long as they get a fix of drugs or alcohol or whatever it is. That's something I'm really, really passionate about. I'm looking into how to facilitate that, because I know that there's people that want to get better, and I just want to show people that there is so much more to life than that. And like I think people think that I've been to jail and my life's ruined. Like, people are going to think this, that, and the other. That it's not true. It's not true. Everybody makes mistakes. Obviously, there's different levels of what people have done, etc. However, the ones that are in there from being in abusive relationships and things like that, the reactive abuse. I mean, there's women in there who've been abused for years. Yeah. So if I can create that, if I can create the safe space, the way out, the resources to help them get on their feet, if they need financial support, if they need domestic violence sort of support and things like that. I was contacted by the domestic violence team. I was under that as well, and they helped me massively, because it's, again, abusive relationships do come with a lot of the time with drugs and alcohol. So I just think I want to help people as much as I can, but that's the real big thing that I'm really passionate about. I need to do that.
I think you're really
There's a
great.
reason I was in there. There's a reason I was in that prison for 20 days. One, I think it was the universe saying, if you don't sort your shit out, this is your life. And it was just a glimpse, because it wasn't a sentence. It was an insight to where my life could go. And yeah, so there's a reason I was in there, and I believe that's what it is.
I agree. I think it's your purpose almost now, isn't it? like for all the education you've got, for what you've been through, for addiction, eating disorders, everything that comes with that, with the control, the mindset, what you've got through your PTing and how the body works. It's just the perfect opportunity to use that education and, you
Yeah.
know, and
And
help these
educate
women out.
others.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and educate others as well, because it's obviously everybody, you learn as you go through life. Whilst I was in early recovery, I did like qualifications in mental health, and I did like introductory ones, and I did
Mm,
things about how trauma is stored in the body. And then that's led me to doing yoga. And it's all to do with healing and making sure I personally never pick up a drink again.
mm,
Learning coping mechanisms, because when you have ADHD and your brain is craving that dopamine, boredom is the biggest reason why most addicts pick up a drink, because they can't sit with all the thoughts that are in their head. It's the guilt, it's the shame, and I want to help people learn how to work through that and sit with those feelings and, do you know what I mean? Process things that have happened
mm.
so they can move on. Because the life I have now, it is happiness in the most pure form. And I would not change this for anything, anything.
It's amazing. Well, it's incredible that your journey has brought you to this place, and the fact that you want to
Mm.
help other people is just the cherry on top. And you have been the perfect first guest on this
Yes.
podcast. It's all about real talk, all about real stories, and you
Mm.
are really inspirational. And I
Good.
think the name of this podcast is Becoming Lucy, as we know. So can you, in one word, sum up who you are becoming now?
Well, that's hard.
Or even a sentence.
I'm becoming the person I was always meant to be. I believe I've been put through all these things, whether it's a karmic test, whether it's something that I've done in a previous life, and I'm here to break the cycle. But I feel my most authentic self ever. And that comes from holding my hands up and saying, do you know what? I was fucked. I was fucked. And this is me starting again and doing it right this time.
No, amazing.
Right.
Thanks for being our first ever guest on Becoming
Yeah.
Lucy. It's been fantastic. And for those wanting to see more, tune in literally every Tuesday, because that's when it's going to be going live. So, yeah, thank you so much, Jess. And yeah, goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Yay!